Hey, Annie, thanks so much for joining. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Lazerne. I'm very great. And thank you for this tool. So helpful.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for testing it out and using it and being one of my guinea pigs. And what I wanted to do was just get some feedback on the tool from you and be able to share that with other people so that they can hopefully be encouraged to try it out, to play with it, and see what they get out of it. So I sent it to you, and just wanted to get your thoughts on how you used it, how you've thought through things, how it's been helpful to you or not, what you got out of it. So I sent it to you and you opened it, and then what happened from there?
Okay, so as soon as I opened it, I read the title, Employee Enablement Factors Tool, and I said, okay, employee enablement, like what exactly does this mean? So I read through it. It was, pretty quick to get through the entire thing and understand what it was about. And it's basically allowing you to rank in a way to rank what the different features that you're looking for within a job, like what are important factors for you in a role. For me, it was actually great timing because I am in the midst of looking for a new role. And as I'm looking, I kind of want to do something similar to what I'm doing now. But then when I looked at this tool, it really forced me to think and evaluate like what really is important. Is it
Yeah.
important for me to have, more responsibility and not be an individual contributor? Is it important for me to travel? Is it important, the compensation? Like, how important is that? What I liked about the tool is that the EEFs, they came pre-populated, and they're not all the things that I would have thought on my own. So I thought that was helpful. One of the things that I thought about was like travel because in my previous role, I was looking for something global, a global role, and something that I can do outside of the United States. That was like a factor in the past that was
Yeah.
helpful for me. Now it's like, okay, I got that experience. Like, what's next? So, in going through this tool, it allowed me to give a weight and a score and allowed me to compare like where I am now and what I want and where I was in the past. And then allowed me to compare a bit to see like where am I really trying to go, and what's important. For instance, I once took on a role where it checked the majority of the boxes. I didn't have this tool at the time. And during my interview, everything was going well. I already knew that I was like a shoe and I was definitely going to get the role. And once I got the role, I forgot to ask something so simplistic. And it was like,
Mhm.
what industry am I going to be selling into? And industry is important, especially in sales, because different industries have different sales cycles. And the one in particular that I got hired for was state and local. And those are long sales cycles. And I said, how can I have forgotten that part? It's so crucial. But with this tool, bringing it back to the tool, it lines this up for you. So, for instance, now on my next interview, I have all the employee enablement factors listed, right? It sounds, silly, like, okay, yeah, you have everything listed, but like when you're speaking in an interview, you can sometimes like go on a tangent with the interviewer and
Mhm.
kind of lose sight with where you want to go. So I feel like this is helpful to keep me organized and ask those questions. Had I had this tool, I would have asked, oh, so what industry is this position for, right? Something so simple.
Right.
I didn't have it. So it allowed me to think. And even still now, it's like as a seller, what industries are appealing to me? Like, what am I going to tell
Yeah.
these interviews? I have experience in XYZ industries, but, I'm also looking and open to work in various other industries. So it's just keeping that top of mind. So I think it's important. I think it's important to really understand when you're looking for a role, like what really is it that you want, especially if you have the time to really to really take the time to look into a role. I think this is helpful for that. Because you're able to like evaluate everything. You're able to evaluate your needs and seeing if that role matches your needs. So it gives you sort of like an element of control because you're understanding, okay, compensation is important to me. Like obviously you have that conversation later, as you're interviewing, but like purpose, like, do I want a role that's impactful? So when I'm applying for jobs, I'm like, okay, how high is this on the impact scale for me? Enjoyment, obviously everybody wants to enjoy. I can go through all the factors, but it's just helpful in helping you like zoom in and figure out like what exactly you want out of a role and what works for you, because maybe something that was important for you in the past may not be as important to you right now. For instance, I mentioned earlier like global. It was important for me to have a role outside of the US. Right now it's like, okay, I've had that, don't need it anymore, but what's more important to me is teaming. I want to feel like I'm a part of a team. How do I want to be a part of that team? Do I want to be the leader of the team? Do I want to be an individual contributor to that team? So it's allowing me to think about that. And I didn't think about like, let's say teaming in the past. The older I get, the more important it is for me to have like relationships and, build a book of business. And in the past, I was just get my foot in and that wasn't necessarily important. But then understanding that and then being able to see the scores, your scores like from the past and then to the present, you kind of are able to determine like what is more important to you now. So I think it's an incredible tool. It gets you thinking. It gets you, really honing in on what it is that you want to do in your next role, at least for the way that I've used it. I know that there's other ways, you can use this tool, but in my job, search, this has been extremely helpful. And, even throughout the day, I'm thinking of, thinking about the different factors and, well, is function more important? Is industry really that important right now? Like, so it gets you thinking. And even like when I'm like evaluating a job, I'll refer to the tool to say, okay, well, I scored higher here, so this is more important. How do I rank this job in my, in all the roles that I'm applying for? That's another thing that I do. So then it's like, all right, this is helpful for that. So I just think that it gets you thinking. It's very easy to use. Step 1, through 5, you plug in your enablement factors. There's some that are preloaded. You put in the weight and then it, spits out a score, and you're able to compare it to your current role or what you would like to be your new role. And then you can compare it to a past role and how you felt in the past and what was important in the past. And you kind of see and, compare and contrast. So great tool.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I appreciate the feedback. It's one of those things where it's like the tool itself is simple, like what you're doing, the way it works is simple. The math is not that hard, but it's also the score itself is not that important. It's really about the ranking and comparison. Some of the EEFs, I preloaded to just get people thinking, or you can keep them, you can kind of change them around. And some of those things that are EEFs, you're like, oh, of course I want to enjoy my role. Like, who doesn't want to enjoy their role, or who doesn't want good compensation? But what the tool kind of forces you to do is rank those things and weight those things, right? And say what's more important, this versus that in my head. And that's important as you go into not just your search in terms and like kind of how you think about yourself and your brand and what you want out of the role, but it's also important towards like when you start to go towards an offer and you're having those conversations and you want to know like, okay, this is super important to me. Can I give up this? Can I give up that? Yes or no? It's almost like trying to find a house or trying to find an apartment, right? You may not get everything in the role. There's no such thing as the perfect role, but you kind of get the next closest thing and then work on building that best role over time. At least that's my philosophy when I'm coaching. So this is kind of a tool that helps kind of jumpstart that conversation for you and whoever else you're working with. So good.
Yeah, very good. Very useful tool. Thank you for sharing it with me. It's very useful.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm happy to and excited to put it out to the world. People can just pick it up for free, use it. And then from there, if they find it's useful, it's going to be a part of a much larger course, which is like 4 modules and 18 lessons. And this tool is covers like 3 of those lessons. So it's part of a much bigger thing. But the tool itself, I think, is even just a quick and easy way to start the conversation with yourself for those who are trying to just figure out what am I doing in my career? Whether they're searching for a job right now, like you, or even if they're in a role and they're looking towards their future, super helpful and important to see what's been done in the past, where you are today, and kind of use that to inform where you want to go tomorrow. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to review the tool, play with it, ask questions, and now give this testimonial. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's a great tool. Everybody use it. It's a great tool.
Yeah, everybody use it. Go use it. Thanks.
Everybody use it.